Mr. President, last week you visited an Ohio plant celebrating the government bailout of Chrysler and General Motors. You told the workers there, "I place my bets on you." The Ohio workers and those throughout the United States are placing their bets on you for economic recovery. How do you feel with them placing their bets on you? How do you respond to that?
Well, look, when it comes to the auto industry, I feel very good about what's happened. Let's just look at the facts. About 2 years ago, Chrysler and GM were on the verge of a liquidation bankruptcy. That's not like your normal restructured bankruptcy. This is a situation where those companies would have gone out of business. So the Lordstown plant, for example, that would have been gone. And we would have seen probably 1 million jobs lost, disproportionately in states like Ohio. Instead, what we did was we not only helped them out, but we also said, you've got to restructure. You've got to rethink how you're doing business. And what we were able to announce last week was Chrysler, just to take one example, not only is it profitable, not only is it increasing market share, not only is it increasing market share in categories like compact cars that previously it hadn't been involved in, but it paid back U.S. taxpayers 6 years early. Every dime of what my administration put into Chrysler, they paid back. And then some. So we actually got about 70% of what the Bush administration had put into Chrysler because of the outstanding work that they've done. And that's good news. What it says is we still have the best workers in the world. We can still compete when it comes to manufacturing. The key is making sure that we've got everybody working together, moving in the same direction, and we're going after the cutting edge. We're not looking backwards, we're looking forwards in terms of advanced battery technology, electric cars. How do we adapt to this 21st century economy? And this is a sign that we can do it.
Mr. President, the auto industry indeed seems to be coming back, but overall unemployment inched up to 9.1%. Jobs in May only amounted to 54,000, far from what you had expected. How do you characterize what happened?
Here's what's gone on. Over the last 15 months, we've created more than 2 million jobs in the private sector. What has happened, though, is that any given month, you're going to have sometimes better than expected job reports, sometimes worse than expected job reports. So the last 3 months, we had much better than expected jobs reports, and unemployment had gone down much faster than anybody had expected. So we don't know yet what's happened in terms of this particular blip. What we do know is gas prices went up, and that got consumers worried. All the destabilization in the Middle East has people nervous. What's happening in Europe has people nervous. So we've got some headwinds going up against us. But the overall trend is an economy that is still growing, jobs that are still being added. And what we need to do now is to make sure that we get back to the fundamentals, keep on doing the things that we have already been doing, payroll tax cut, tax breaks for companies that are investing in plants and equipment, investing in basic science and research, investing in education, doing all those things that are required to make sure that we're competitive over the long term. And if we do that, if we keep our eye on the ball, then I'm confident that this economy will keep on growing and that over time the unemployment rate will keep on going down.
Mr. President, you campaigned on hope and change. What do you say to people who are still unemployed and you're asking them to hold on? What do you tell them to keep that hope alive?
Well, I guess what I'd say to folks is we've traveled a long way over these last 2.5 years. We were on the verge of going into a Great Depression. The auto example was just one example of what could have happened in the financial sector, what could have happened in a whole bunch of areas. That obviously doesn't make you feel better if you don't have a job right now. And so to those who are still unemployed, my main message to them is every day I get up and ask myself, what more can I be doing to give them a shot? What else do I have within my power to make sure that jobs are being created, businesses are succeeding, small businesses are succeeding, and people are able to live out the American dream? So what they should know is they've got a president who's on their side, and that we are taking every step possible to recover from a severe body blow that took place 2.5 years ago. But we're resilient people, we're a strong people. We've been through tougher times before. We're going to get through this, and I'm confident that by next year we'll look back and we will have continued to make progress, just like we've made progress over the last 2 years.
I'm from Cleveland, home of NASA Glenn Research Center. With the space shuttle program cutting back now or ending after this next flight, what do you tell people at Glenn Research Center? Will there be a need for the NASA Glenn Research Center in Cleveland? And can they count on the White House standing behind NASA staying in Cleveland?
Well, I believe in the space program. Look, I'm turning 50 in about a month and a half, but that means that I grew up being inspired by Apollo and the moon landing. And so the key, even though the space shuttle is phasing out, is what's that next big leap? And that's going to require research. That's exactly part of our plan, is to make sure that we're researching, new fuel, new mechanisms to allow for long-term space flight. There's some additional technological leaps that we have to make, because basically we're using the same technologies that we were using back in the 60s in a lot of cases. That's why a research facility of NASA's is going to continue to be critical, because we want to find what are those next technological leaps that will take us not just to the moon, but take us to Mars and beyond.
Now that bin Laden is dead, will you accelerate the pullout of troops from Afghanistan?
Well, what I've said is that this summer is going to be a summer of transition. We're not going to do anything precipitous, but what I've already said to the American public and what I've said to the Afghan people is that it's time for the Afghans now to take responsibility for their own security. We are training their security forces up. That transition will take place over the next couple of years. But by killing bin Laden, by blunting the momentum of the Taliban, we have now accomplished a lot of what we set out to accomplish 10 years ago. And it's important that we now provide Afghans the ability for them to start providing security for their own country. So we will begin a transition this summer, and I'll be making an announcement soon in terms of the pace of that reduction of U.S. troops, but we're going to be bringing some of our troops home.
If I could ask you a little bit about urban education. We in Cleveland are dealing with the problems many other cities are dealing with when it comes to urban education. You want a workforce ready to take these new jobs when these new jobs come along. What are your thoughts about cities like Cleveland where the dropout rate is at 50% or thereabouts?
Well, we now know what works. We know that having excellent teachers, that makes a bigger difference than just about anything else. We know that in some cases charter schools have done a great job in redesigning curriculum and how kids spend their time in school, and creating a compact between the community and the school, parents, teachers, and the young people themselves. So there are a whole series of steps that can be taken. This program we've called Race to the Top has incentivized over 40 states now to make significant reforms in their school system. So what we want to do is to continue to encourage best practices in urban schools. But I was just at a commencement in Memphis, a high school just a while back, where they had almost doubled their graduation rate, just because they had a principal that was dedicated, teachers that were dedicated, they had started doing things in a different way, and a community that's dedicated. So everybody's got to pull together on this. And the one thing I never do is to let parents off the hook in terms of encouraging their students to learn. I mean, some of this is an issue of money. Some of this is an issue of fixing school bureaucracies and making sure that our teachers are inspired and they're getting the help that they need. But some of this is parents saying to students, there's nothing more important than you getting your education. And we're going to do whatever it requires. We're going to turn off the TV set. You're going to have a quiet place to do your homework. There are going to be curfews on you, and how late you can stay up so that you're well rested for school. Some of those core responsibilities of parents continue to be vital in terms of making sure that our young people can succeed, especially in an urban environment.
Mr. President, thank you very much for meeting with me today.
I enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed it too. Thank you, sir.
Thanks. All good?